So, never mind. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is another dessert video. These are basically dessert enchiladas. I've been wanting to try making this for a really long time, and I'm just finally getting around to it, but perfect timing because it's peanut butter chocolate and Halloween's coming, and peanut butter chocolate is the Halloween vibe, so, at least for me. So what these are, basically I just filled some tortillas with a bunch of sweet stuff and then topped it with more sweet stuff. Very excited. I'll explain once I start eating. But also for today's mukbang, I am finally doing another true crime video, and because my true crimes tend to be more labor intensive and long, I like to have smaller amounts of food or one food item for my true crimes or my conspiracies that are really long. So that way the video isn't super long. But today's true crime, I haven't really heard a lot of people talk about it, so I wanted to talk about it for this video. A little bit of a disclaimer, this video is for mature audiences and I will be mentioning adult content such as murder and all of that because this is true crime. I'm also in no way trying to harm or hurt the families that were affected. My heart goes out to them and I'm truly so sorry. Alright, before I start with the true crime though, I'm going to start with this. I guess I'll explain what I put in them first. So this one I'm pretty sure is peanut butter chocolate and vegan peanut butter cups. This one's peanut butter and jelly. This one is peanut butter chocolate and vegan peanut M&Ms. Another peanut butter and jelly, and I think these two are just peanut butter and chocolate. So I'm going to start on this end though. And then I drizzled everything in maple syrup and more peanut butter and chocolate. So very easy. I can write it in the description box too. Oh yeah, and then I put it in the oven for like 5 minutes. This is going to be really messy. Okay. That is everything I wanted it to be. Oh my gosh. Hold on, let me clean up a little bit. Sorry about that. That was a mess. Delicious mess. So today's true crime, we're going to start off with a little bit of a story. I think it was 2007 or 2008. But there were two guys camping. I think they were in the Appalachia Mountains, the National Forest in Florida. And they were just wandering around this forest, and they came upon another campsite. Now, this campsite seemed to be very unsettling. The appearance of the campsite made them feel apprehensive. Like, it was just disheveled, and there were things everywhere. It just seemed like whoever was at this campsite was not taking care of it, and it just appeared very off to them. I used strawberry jam. I don't like it as much as the peanut butter chocolate one, but it's still good. So they turn on their heel and begin to walk away, but then a man comes out of his tent and initiates conversation with them. Now, as he's talking to them, he makes a few recommendations of places that they should go in the forest. And one of the guys finds this a little aberrant because he's not specifying yards or miles, he's using feet to describe the locations. So, for example, instead of saying half a mile or 800 yards, he would say 2,000 feet to this waterfall. It was very off to them, but they just brushed it aside and didn't think much of it. But then one day, a few months later, one of the guys calls the other and tells him to turn on the news. So he does, and on the news are pictures of this guy, Gary Michael Hilton, the guy they had seen in the forest. Gary Michael Hilton is a serial killer who preyed on and killed young women in national parks. And some of the places that he recommended for the two guys to go to were places that he hid the bodies, which is why he used feet in his description. And of course, both of these young men were questioned by the police. I can't even imagine, like, meeting someone who's kind of shady, but like you don't think much of it, and then come to find out he's a serial killer, and then you are needed for questioning. Gary Michael Hilton, also known as the National Forest serial killer, is a pretty messed up dude because I tried to find stuff about his past because typically with messed up serial killers, they have a messed up past. But I could not find a lot about Gary Michael Hilton's past. But what I did find, it didn't seem like he dealt with a lot of bad stuff. I mean, we all go through stuff, but, you know, comparatively to these other serial killers, it didn't seem like there was a lot to his past that would determine or give definitive answers as to why he became a serial killer. I mean, there are serial killers out there who are just psycho. I get that. But anyway, my whole point is I couldn't find a lot of his background. But I did find out that he was born on November 26th, 1946 to his father, William E. Hilton, and then his mother, Cleo M. Reynolds. And then in the year 1964, he enlisted in the Army and spent a lot of his time in Germany, where he acquired principal airborne training and his GED before being honorably discharged in the year 1967. He got married to a woman named Sue in 1969, but unfortunately they got divorced 2 years later in 1971. And then on January 24th, 1973, he was convicted of DUI, which resulted in the revocation of his Florida license, and then just never had it replaced. And then in the year 1977, he married a woman named Dina, whom he eventually divorced in 1978. And then in 1979, he married his third wife, and you guessed it, they got divorced, not even a year later. Obviously, he's not relationship material. In 1983, in Clayton County, Gary was convicted of carrying a pistol, and then when asked in court why he carried a gun, he said he didn't need one, but he had it for protection. And then in 1987, he was convicted of theft by deception, and then later on, the possession of marijuana, to which he pled guilty. But then these charges were eventually dismissed. That's pretty typical in cases like this. A lot of the time I think serial killers are serial killers and like they get away with it because the system is just so negligent and just stupid. So all these serial killers just run rampant. Uh-oh. This one has the vegan M&Ms in it. Even when I make the bite sizes smaller, I'm still a mess. I have chocolate on my arm. Love that for me. On December 1st of 1944, a woman by the name of Melissa Witt went missing in Arkansas, in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Yeah. And just over a month later, her body was discovered on the countryside, or near the countryside of Franklin County, which is also in Arkansas. And although the crimes are dissociated by years and states, there are several parallels that have drawn police officers to pursue evaluating possible association with Gary Michael Hilton, but they're not sure that this one is associated with him. In 1995, Hilton rented a room in the Marietta area in Georgia by a man named Chris Johnson, who depicted Hilton as a weird character. Later that same year, Gary was arrested for stealing books, also in the Georgia area, and he was attempting to sell them or resell them at a communal flea market for personal gain, despite the fact that he was selling them for, or hired to sell them for, an American display book company. So he was selling them for himself, even though he was supposed to be selling them for this company. In the year 1997, Gary Hilton started working for what would be 10 years at an insulated wall system company in Duluth, Georgia. And then on October 22nd, 1997, Levi Frady went missing, and the following day, Levi's body was found in Dawson Forest in Georgia. And then 6 years later, in 2004, Patrice Andres had vanished while working in her hair salon. And then 2 years later, her body was unfortunately discovered behind a church in Dawson County. And then in July of 2006, Gary was seen soliciting at an intersection, and then someone caught him beating up a dog at a park. And then in late 2007, Gary's manager filed a complaint after Gary threatened to kill him if he didn't pay him $10,000. He then told Gary to leave, and so Gary packed up his stuff and left. Goodbye, Gary. Nobody wants you here. I think this is another peanut butter and jelly one. And then another peanut butter and chocolate. Simple, yet so delicious. On October 21st in 2007, John and Irene Bryant were in Pisgah National Forest in North Carolina when John was abducted and Irene was killed. And apparently she had attempted to call 911, but the call didn't go through. The day after, John Bryant's credit card had been used to withdraw $300 at 7:35 p.m. and that was in Ducktown, Tennessee, so not the same state he had been abducted in. Then on November 9th, 2007, Irene's body was found a few yards away from her car in Pisgah forest in North Carolina. And then in December of 2007, Cheryl Dunlap went missing in Tallahassee, Florida. Her card was then used consecutively over the next 3 days, once each day. Just 2 days later, on the Alabama line in LaGrange, Georgia, 5 black garbage bags were found on Stitcher Road, and inside contained an unidentified woman's hand, feet, and head. And the bags appeared as if someone had tried to burn them. Over the next 3 days, Gary Hilton was spotted in the Apalachicola National Forest in Florida. And just 6 days later, Cheryl Dunlap's body was found in the same place. On the 29th of December in 2007, Cale Bywater went missing in Athens, Georgia, and just a few days later, Meredith Emerson also went missing in Vogel State Park, Georgia. So that's kind of like the timeline. I guess I'll kind of talk about all of his victims, well, all of his known victims. First of all is Rosanna Miliani, and she went missing on December 7th, 2005 when hiking in Bryson City. It was said that she had gone to her store and appeared to be very nervous. She had been seen with an older man who looked to be in his 60s. The old man said that he was a traveling preacher. He bought some clothes and then left with Rosanna. And they later found out that Gary had stolen her credit card and used it, or attempted to use it. And then, unfortunately, they later found out that Rosanna had been beaten to death. As mentioned earlier, Cheryl Dunlap didn't show up to church one day and was reported missing by one of her church friends. And then, like I mentioned earlier, they found her remains along the side of the highway. And we already discussed John and Irene Bryant. Hilton supposedly killed a man by the name of Michael Scott Louie. On December 6, 2007, Michael Scott Louie's body was found at Tomoka State Park, and it was said that he was dismembered and decapitated, which seems to be a pretty concurrent facet with Gary's killings. And then lastly is Meredith Emerson. Meredith was last seen on Blood Mountain. Why it is called that, I do not know, but it was in northern Georgia on New Year's Day in 2008. Basically, she was out walking her dog and she was seen with another man at some point, but she ended up not coming home after 2 hours, and then her friends reported her missing. Then 2 days later, someone was witnessing Gary clean out his vehicle at the Chevron, and he was kind of suspicious, so he called the police. The police were able to arrive before Gary was able to bleach the interior of his van, and this is where crime scene analysts procured blood evidence that matched Meredith Emerson's DNA. So Gary was then arrested and charged for the murder of Meredith Emerson. And then 4 days later, on January 8th, Meredith's body was found in the northern Georgia mountains, or North Georgia mountains. Gary reputedly attacked her with an army knife while she had been hiking, and he ended up giving her 2 black eyes in order to prevent her from screaming while attacking her. And then he eventually killed her when she perpetually kept giving him wrong credit card numbers. And the police said that Meredith had fought for 4 days for her life. I hate that. Like, she's so strong and courageous and she still loses, and I'm okay. I just hate it. And then on January 30th, 2008, Gary Michael Hilton pleaded guilty to the murder of Meredith Emerson and was sentenced to life in prison with possibility of parole in 30 years, which he doesn't deserve, but he was then later linked to the murders of Cheryl Dunlap and John and Irene Bryant. He pleaded guilty to the Bryant's murders, and he was tried for Cheryl's murder, to which he was sentenced to death. I should not be smiling while saying that. I mean, he's a serial killer, but I shouldn't be smiling about someone dying. What is wrong with me? He's just a bum, okay? He remains a suspect in several other killings, and he currently sits in prison at the age of 76. Where's that death sentence I heard about? Okay, I should stop. It's not funny. But yeah, that's pretty much the story. I had to leave a few things out because this video is so long, but it's obviously not key to the story. the chocolate has kind of hardened a little bit, so it's extra thick. But I honestly kind of like it that way. Hold on, I need a little bit more water. So, what do you guys think? Have you heard of Gary Michael Hilton before? Let me know if you guys have heard of it before and what you think. I hope I explained it okay. I feel like I'm always everywhere with these videos. Sorry if my neighbors, if you could hear them, because they've been really loud today. It's fine though. I have good neighbors. So I'll take sometimes noisy but kind neighbors over quiet but rude. Sorry guys, my camera battery died because this video is so long, so I'm only going to take a few more bites, but like I said, I really hope you enjoyed, and if you try some dessert enchiladas out, let me know if you like them. Okay, last bite. That is the end of today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. I hope you are enjoying the true crime. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe. By the way, it's free. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.